Kantara. The new Kannada movie from writer-director Risabh Shetty is a vibrant saga of right versus wrong, man versus nature, and wish versus destiny that thrives on its stunning folklore backing set in rural hinterlands of Tulnadu. Set around a mysterious forest as its name suggests, Kantara is the tale of a tribal village and the fight of its people for their land narrated across three timelines. It starts back in 1890 when a king, unhappy inside in spite of all his wealth, comes across this group of tribals in the forest while on his journey of soul searching. He meets Panjurli, the demigod of tribal community, who is often accompanied by the compatriot spirit Guliga the ferocious. The king wishes for the demigod to come with him to his kingdom. He feels the demigod's presence will fetch him solace of mind and in return grants the tribal community the entire land surrounding the forest for them to settle and live. Cut to 1970, we watch how this ethnic community is still thriving in that granted piece of land, but now the descendants of the king are no more okay with this settlement made decades ago. During one of the community celebrations, a greedy young successor from the royal family demands back the land that was granted to the tribals, leading to a war of words with the Bhutakola performer during his spirit worship. The debate results in a catastrophe as the royal successor dies and the performer gets lost in the forest in the most mystical way. And that takes us to 1990, the time of Shiva, our protagonist and son of Bhutakola, performer who got lost in the forest 2 decades ago. After witnessing the traumatic loss of his father in his childhood, Shiva is not ready to take up the ancient performances that is expected out of his family origins, and instead deals in petty, often illegal tasks for the local landlord, who is the son of the dead descendant from the royal family that his father conflicted with. Now, this first 15-20 minutes of the film sets us up for what's coming in the next 2 hours or so. At a surface level, the film introduces us to the background story from where the present-day conflicts will emerge, as well as the primary characters who will take the narrative ahead. And at a second level, it immerses us into the world of Kantara through the riveting set pieces of Bhutakola performance of Shiva's father, and then the Kambala race that introduces us to Risabh Shetty as Shiva. We get to see his origin, we experience his Shiva-like rage as the buffalo racer, and we also witness how he fights for justice, as in fighting for his rightly deserved medal in the race. We know the man within minutes, and now we are already rooting for him. And while these outstandingly choreographed sequences by cameraman Arvind Kashyap takes our breath away, writer-director Risabh Shetty also sets up the political context of the film in the most subtle way. Consider how the film establishes the feudalism existing in the royal family across generations as if a microcosm of our country. A king, apparently benevolent, takes away the most precious belongings of the ethnic community for his own comfort, granting them some basic rights to stay at the outskirts of his kingdom. We wonder how he gets back his peace of mind in conquering something that doesn't belong to him organically. Perhaps it's his unique peace of mind that's similarly found missing in the royal descendant who demands his ancestral lands back from the tribals even if he has enough at his end. Well, he was crude in his ask, and cut to the present-day settings of the film, his son landlord is seen to continue the same legacy in more subtle and intelligent ways. The otherization, the caste politics, the greed of the mighty across generations is brilliantly set up early into the film, from where it soars up as we move on. Later in the film, when the so-called upper caste landlord enters Shiva's house, the camera focuses on his royal shoes put beside the cheap chappals. We watch him consoling Shiva's family as one of their own, but that contrasting shot of the shoes lingers in your mind. You doubt his motives, wonder if he's closer to the pseudo-caring king or his ravening father. And then as the film enters in its third and final act, the screenplay exposes how the landlord is worse than both his antecedents as the most appropriate moment arrives. And here's where Kantara differs from multiple other mainstream vehicles that play around similar settings, owing to its subtle politics that's hardly on your face. The piece writing rooted to the folklore of the land and the multiple layers of storytelling that astonishingly bring together both these aspects. The second act works at subversions from the familiar narrative structure that arise out of this known premise. The screenplay brings in a third angle in the story of good versus evil in form of the character Murli, the forest officer. Much like in real life, the law, though honest in its intentions and true to its cause, hardly works in favor of the most deprived, as it always stands out of their reach. Instead, it hurts the same people it sets out to protect, unable to empathize with their vulnerabilities, differences, and beliefs. The one-eyed law, if you may, as the film depicts metaphorically. The face-offs between Shiva and Murli constitute the middle section of the film. Like so many times we have watched in our cinema, where the angry young rebel hero and the villainous police officer collide. But in Kantara, Rishabh and team subvert this known premise. It suggests how the men in power exploit both sides. As the law and the professed lawbreakers fight each other, they fetch profit out of these fights. The film advocates that the implementation of the law can never eclipse its cause, and the approach should come off in consideration of its time, space, and people. Women who generally play second fiddle in similar stories also find strong and well-defined characterizations in Rishabh's writing. Be it Shiva's mother, the only person is scared of, or be it Leela, Shiva's love interest, who joins the forest guard force and finds herself apparently on the other side of the law. In the film's climax sequence, when Leela puts up the first blow against the landlord's men, or when we watch Shiva cuddling beside his mother, frightened of his frequent nightmares, Kantara works in favor of gender fluidity, a welcome rarity of such mainstream outings. If only the film would get rid of the cringy sequences of Shiva wooing Leela, pinching her waist, pushing beyond consent, segments that clearly lack in the film's otherwise nuanced avoidance of inherent commercial trappings. Kantara does not lose on the audience engagement and entertainment at any time. Consider how beautifully the film builds up its third act and the outstanding climax. Great action sequences to end the film was a giveaway, but like in the most powerful mainstream executions, Kantara also builds up for interesting eco-sequences from its initial 15 minutes. We watch the rage of Shiva again in the climax like we witnessed in the Kambala race. We watch another spine-chilling Bhutakola act in the climax, and then the film takes us to a beautiful closure that, while rooted to the cultural specificity of the land, also works at a universal level in its emotional telling. Thus, Kantara becomes an immersive experience of the culture and heritage of coastal Karnataka, much like Ulidavidu Kandante or Garuda Gamana Rishabha Vahana, while narrating a contemporary story. Actor-director Risabh Shetty, who also played another version of Shiva in last year's GGVV and bowled us over with his Pilli Vesha performance in that film, comes on board to choreograph the Bhutakola performance for his friend Risabh Shetty and to offer us a similar goosebump-worthy sequence that is bound to be discussed for a long time to come. Just consider how invested this group of creators are to their culture, craft, and mutual cohesiveness, and it is the result of this respect and vision we get to watch in their films. Be Ajanish Loknath's eclectic music, Arvind Kashyap's electrifying cinematography transports the audience to a distinct world of its own as you breathe the same air of rustic flavor from where the characters of Kantara originate. The performances are all top-notch, denoting the completeness of these characters. Be Kishore as the no-nonsense officer Murali, who struggles to align his righteous purposes with misplaced perspectives. Achyuth Kumar's sly and slippery landlord Devendra, always impressing upon us that there's more to him than what meets the eye. Or Saptami Gowda as Leela, dealing with her own share of struggles within her community. But then the film belongs to Rishabh Shetty, the writer, director, and the actor. In his career best performance, Rishabh sets the screen blazing scene after scene, sequence after sequence. Not only the Kambala race or the Bhutakola performance, which is bound to be lauded by all and sundry, Rishabh shines in all his scenes in this powerhouse of a performance, certainly one of the finest of the year. This evocative piece of filmmaking marks another chapter in the ever-rising arc of Kannada cinema back to its past glory. And as you think about that, and also consider the final frames of emotional closure of Kantara, the film adds yet another meta layer to its proceedings. What an experience this one is. Watch it on the big screen if it's playing nearby. This is not to be missed. That is all from us today. Thank you for watching.